First things first, I do want to say that I am very excited about this game. There are some things that I am critical about that I'm kind of not necessarily worried about, but just kind of questioning as to how it's going to work or how it's going to play, once we actually have the game in our hands. But anyways, let's talk about some of the discourse that we've seen online. A lot of questions have been asked ever since this trailer came out, ever since the article with the interview of the director of the game came out. And, I think it's warranted. Obviously, it's warranted because people don't know, what the hell. I mean, when you look at this trailer, you don't know what the hell is going on. You got the Nameless King, you got Dark Souls stuff. You got this freaking flying bird, so it's a little weird. Let's go ahead and cover that right here on this video. So one of the very first things that I want to talk about is the actual lore of the actual story of the game or whatnot. And From Software's the director of this game specifically, who's working at From Software, has already said that this game's story, which it's not even really going to have a single player story. At least I don't think so, not from what I've gathered. It's not going to have really much to do with the original story in Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree. This is a standalone multiplayer game that exists outside the main Elden Ring story timeline. Think of it as like a parallel world or a parallel universe type of thing. I know a lot of people don't like the whole multiverse aspect of things sometimes. I know a lot of people think that's kind of lazy writing, like, oh, Nameless King is here because he's coming from the multiverse or whatnot. I don't think From Software is going to go that route. I don't think they're going to connect all their games all of a sudden because, they're going for a multiverse storyline across everything. I don't think that's the case. I think this game is literally just being made for fun, for the fuck of it, really, and just to kind of have something to play, some Souls elements and some boss battles and shit that you can play with your friends. So this story is not necessarily canon. All the things that we're seeing in this game are not necessarily going to be canon to Elden Ring's story, which is fine, man. I mean, I think From Software is taking a risk here in putting out a game like this, putting out a multiplayer game like this. I think it's very similar to what we see Nintendo do with their IPs. Obviously, you have like Legend of Zelda and Super Mario, and each of those two have their own stories. Specifically, Legend of Zelda. Super Mario is kind of, doing his own thing across all kinds of games, but specifically Legend of Zelda, we see him in Hyrule Warriors, and we see him in Super Smash Brothers, and we see him in other games, and those games are not canon to the main Legend of Zelda story, and we're able to accept that he's just in this game. And I think that's the same way we should look at this NightReign game, is that this is just a multiplayer game with a bunch of shit that From Software has worked on scattered in, that is just a multiplayer game that you can play and hop on with friends and kill some bosses pretty much. Now, the next thing that I've seen that I wanted to talk about is whether or not the style of this game and whether or not this game is a battle royale or a roguelike or, whatever other comparisons they made. I think the biggest one that I've seen is like a battle royale. This game is not a battle royale. It's at least not your traditional battle royale where you drop in and you have to survive 100 people and the circle's getting smaller until the last 2 people are left and you win and you're the victor, right? This is not what that is. There are battle royale elements, specifically 2 of them. One of them is you drop in on this bird. That's actually how you drop into the map. When you load into a match, you're being flown in by a spectral, eagle or whatever, and it drops you in and you drop wherever you want on the actual map. So that's how you start a match. Another thing that I've seen is at night, when night comes on the actual map, obviously you have to survive 3 nights, right? Or 3 days and 3 nights. So when night actually approaches on the map, there is a circle that is getting smaller and smaller and leading to one certain spot on the map. And the reason that they're doing that is because at night is when one of the main bosses that you have to fight for that session spawns. And the reason that there's a circle, obviously, it has something to do with the Night Lord, causing the rain to hurt you or whatnot. But the reason they're also doing that is so that they can seclude the actual boss battle to a certain spot on the actual map. Now, this game is a 3-player game. You are more than welcome to play it as 1 player, but this is specifically tailored to 3 players, and you don't have to play with friends. You can, get connected with randoms on the internet or whatever, random online, right? So imagine that you're playing with randoms, and all of a sudden, you're focused on the boss, and the 2 other randoms are over there fucking doing another cave or doing another dungeon or fighting the easier enemies, right? No, this is to seclude everybody to that 1 boss battle so that everybody can focus on that boss battle only and don't have to worry about any outside forces or anybody, dodging the battle for whatever reason. So those are the 2 battle royale elements. I think it's more so of a roguelike. I think it has more roguelike elements in terms of you drop in on a match, and every single match you start off at level 0 or level 1, whatever they want to start you off at. You have to work your way up in each session, so as soon as you start, you're a level 0 with no good weapons. You're fighting people with a goddamn wooden stick, and then by the end of the night, or by the end of the 3rd day, you got your weapons, you got your arts, you're flying around like this guy, you got all your highest level weapons and highest level armors and things like that. And when you go back to the lobby, there are certain consumables and certain things that you can take with you to upgrade your character. That way, the next time you start a multiplayer session, it's, you're starting off with a little bit more, or you're starting off with more health or whatnot. But for the most part, your weapons and all that will have to restart every single multiplayer session. Now, another thing that I do want to talk about as well, another point that people have been making, which I think is the most valid point that people can make regarding this game, is what does this say for From Software in the future? And is there a possibility that this can lead to microtransactions and a store ending up in this Elden Ring game, like selling new heroes or selling new armor sets, selling a battle pass even, which I certainly I hope not. But that is a valid a discussion or a valid point to make, because obviously this is a multiplayer game, and there's only so much content that you can put out that is going to keep people engaged into the game. At some point, you're going to have to release more content, and whether or not they decide to put a price tag to it is up to From Software. This obviously comes down to Bandai Namco as well, whether or not they want to monetize the game in the future. Hopefully, we're getting an instance where this is the game that we're getting, and maybe future updates in the future will give free updates or new bosses or new armor sets and stuff like that for free. Hopefully that's the case, because they did say that this is not a live service game, which means there's not going to be seasons or weekly content or anything like that. Whether or not that remains to be the case, I mean, we'll know once the game is out. But they have said, this is a standalone multiplayer game. When you buy the game, you're getting the full package. You're not going to have to buy, premium access or anything like that. Everybody is going to get the same game when the game launches. So those are the 3 big points that I've seen people talk about. I've also seen a lot of people say, well, why didn't they just make Elden Ring 2 instead of a multiplayer game? Or why didn't they just make something new and things like that? And this is something that people need to remember, man. This is a new director. This is something that he was working on already when Elden Ring was being made. So this is why it's in that Elden Ring universe, because he was kind of toying around with it. I'm assuming that they wanted it to be a multiplayer mode in Elden Ring, but obviously they did not have the time to add that on there before Shadow of the Erdtree and all that stuff came out. So I think we should just give them a chance, man, and see exactly what it is that they're cooking. The good news coming out of this, is that if this director is working on this, then that means Miyazaki, who is the director of Elden Ring, is working on something else and has been working on something else ever since the Shadow of the Erdtree has finished. If he's not working on this, he's clearly doing something else. Obviously, we still have the news about Sony possibly buying From Software's parent company, which would then give them the ownership of From Software. That's still on the horizon as well. So who knows what's going to come out of that. Hopefully From Software stays true to their roots and stays the developer that they are, which I don't see why they wouldn't. I don't see why Sony would go in there and you know, kind of dictate what they should do or anything if everything that they've done up to this point has worked out for them. But anyways, man, those are my quick thoughts. If you guys have any thoughts or any comments about what I talked about, or just want to add to the conversation, or if you're worried about any of the mechanics that are in this game or the game modes or whatnot, feel free to comment down on the comment section, man. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna argue or anything like that. Everybody's point is valid. If you're worried about a certain thing in this game, at the end of the day, man, we all just got to wait until it comes out and pray that it's good. There is a network test that's going to be happening in February. Hopefully I'm able to play the game around that time. That way we can actually get a sense of what it's like to play, and then we can decide, you know, from there what we can expect from this game. But anyways, I'll see y'all later. Peace out.